won a Super Bowl with the Colts, now working for Football Night in America. And now he can be an armchair coach to everybody in the country. He's Tony Dungy, who joins us here. The play at the end of the Alabama-Auburn game, kicking a field goal of that length with that much time, with 1 second on the clock. What are the odds of that being good and the things that could go good and bad in a situation like that?
Well, you worry about and you worry about it getting blocked, number one. So you have to weigh that. Does my guy have a chance to make it? But you have to practice that situation. You have to practice those long field goals and tell your guys as soon as you kick it, you got to cover. And that's just one thing. And Nick Saban he's on all the details, but he wasn't on that one. Those guys didn't cover.
But you can't have great athletes on a long kick that you got big fat guys up there,
do,
right?
But we saw it in Minnesota, Chicago. They had the big fat guys, but they all ran down there. Now Patterson's surrounded.
Yeah.
But as you said, you have to give Gus Malzahn credit. Okay, I'm going to get my return team out there. I'm not going to try to block it. My chance of scoring is with the return, and they had it all set up. They were on the details, and Alabama wasn't one time. You rarely see that with Nick Saban.
Most bizarre finish that you've ever been a part of or you saw. Where does Alabama-Auburn rank?
That's up pretty high for what was at stake in the national championship bid, and you think, hey, we're either going to win it or we're going into overtime. You have no thought of losing it on the last play, and that was unreal.
What about the Immaculate Reception with Franco Harris? You weren't with the Steelers then.
I wasn't there yet, but a great hustle play, and you have to credit Franco Harris. And I watched him practice for 7 years after that, and it was no fluke. That's the way he practiced. He hustled every play, scored every time he touched the ball in practice, ran 40 yards into the end zone. Every time a ball was thrown, he ran to the spot, tried to get a block. And I remember getting there as a rookie saying that was no fluke. That was just good execution.
And everybody, there's these moments in your life where you remember where you were. Doug Flutie, Hail Mary pass against Miami. Music City Miracle with the Titans. Immaculate Reception. Band is on the field. Cal Stanford. There's just, you can't script that.
No.
That's right out of a comedy where you say, and then the band will come on the field, and then the tuba player, and then he runs over the tuba player, and you win the game. Right?
Yeah, those you as a coach, you try to work on everything, but some things you just can't. You can't. There's no way you could think that was ever coming to the Stanford band play.
Why is it that in college football, if you're undefeated, you're somehow better than a team that has one loss?
Well, that's because of the polls and no playoff. And so polls are being undefeated. That's why you see all these teams scheduled. You talked about non-conference schedules. Yeah. That's why they're scheduled. I'm not taking any chances because if I beat Southwest Missouri State, it's better than losing to Alabama. And that doesn't make sense, but that's the way we have it.
But the Chiefs were undefeated a couple of weeks ago, and I said at the time, just because they're undefeated, they're not the best team. They're undefeated, but I thought that the Broncos were still better. Patriots were still better. And if you looked at other teams, Seattle was still better. But we looked at them and said they're the best team because they're undefeated. Why do we get caught up on that?
Well, in the NFL, you have playoffs. So you have a 9-7 team that wins the Super Bowl or a 12-4 team. But when you don't have a playoff, it's all based on what it looks like. So you fight to be undefeated to get to that final game. And that's just without a playoff, undefeated means something.
What would you have done if you're Brady Hoke with the 2-point conversion?
I was flying during the game, and that was my first thing. Why don't you just go into overtime and play? But everybody's telling me that Michigan could not stop Ohio State. So you feel like, hey, what's my best chance? Trying to score from the 3-yard line or playing 10 more minutes and going back and forth. And I think they probably made the right call. I've been in that situation at times, not when I was a head coach, but when I was an assistant where I didn't feel like we had the best team, and you say, hey, let's take our shot from the 2. This is better than going into overtime against the Dallas Cowboys when they were really hot. So I think it made sense.
Talking to Tony Dungy, Football Night in America. Peyton Manning with 41 touchdown passes. Now, Brady's got the record at 50. He throws 5 yesterday against Kansas City. What do you expect at the end of the year, just numbers-wise with Peyton?
I think he'll be at about 56, 57. He had 49 the year in our year in 2004. We didn't play him in the last game of the year. We took him out of a couple games in December. I don't see that happening because they're going to have to continue to win. So I see him throwing 10 or 12 more touchdown passes.
And you look at that offense. Now, they don't have their tight end who wasn't in.
Julius Thomas.
So, we didn't know if Demaryius Thomas was going to play. Well, I mean, all of a sudden, Eric Decker has a career day. That offense of what we've seen with offenses in recent history. They got running backs. No Sean Moreno, Monte Ball. They got a couple of guys there. But I know the line isn't great. Where does that offense rank, in your opinion?
They're very good. And the genius is Peyton Manning because he's going to look at those matchups, and he really – if you have a flaw, he's going to pick it out. They thought they could play man-to-man and match up, and Decker was the matchup. I've seen Peyton do that over and over. We played a playoff game against Denver several years ago. Champ Bailey's on Marvin Harrison. Now, Marvin is upset the whole game because Peyton won't even look at him. Throws 15 balls to Reggie Wayne on Rock Alexander. And, that's how it's going to go. So he saw Eric Decker yesterday with a favorable matchup. It didn't matter who else was on the field. When he got bump and run coverage, that's where he was going. And so it can be someone different every week. And they've got enough of those weapons that they're really hard to defend.
You can't take it personally, though.
No, you can't, and that's and Marvin did that.
But these wide receivers they're divas.
Hey, I can get Champ. I can run this, I can run that, and I know Marv, but I got Rock Alexander over here.
There was a moment at the end of the Bears-Vikings game where you had second down, and Mark Trestman goes for the field goal with Robbie Gould, 47 yards. Give me the logic there. I know Gould is great, maybe the most accurate place kicker in history, but it's second down.
Well, I read Mark's explanation, and he said that as soon as they got inside the 30, he knew Robbie Gould was in range, and so that he was planning to kick it. You kick 47-yard field goals, and you don't even blink with Robbie Gould, but you don't set up a 47-yarder. That's not a chip shot.
If you have to take it, then
you take it, and you feel good about it. But you don't stop at second down and say, "Oh, okay, 47 yards, he's automatic here." You've got to get a little bit closer when you have the opportunity. And Minnesota's not a great defense. He's worried about turnovers or taking a loss and that type of thing. You have to trust your offense and get a little closer.
Tony Dungy staying with us. Mike Tomlin on the Thanksgiving night game, getting kind of close to the sidelines on the field there. He knew what he was doing, didn't he?
I don't think so. I mean, he's not looking that way. If he was looking at Jacoby Jones, I'd say, yeah, come on. He's looking the other way.
Are you protecting Mike Tomlin?
No, I'm not. I've done that. Now, we didn't have great jumbotrons like that when I was coaching, but I used to stand at the far end. You kind of lean in there. The last thing you expect is a return all the way coming up your sideline.
But why would he look at the jumbotron when all he had to do is look to his right and he could see Jacoby Jones running right towards him? Come on, Tone.
I don't know, but I just can't. It's the conspiracy theory of, hey, I'm going to look at the jumbotron and I'm going to ease out there and get in front of this guy. I just don't see that.
Should he be punished?
Well, I don't. They didn't throw a flag, so obviously.
There are a lot of times they don't throw a flag and a guy will get fined $100,000.
No, and that's what the players will say. So I guess you have to do it.
What would you do
if I was the
draft
commissioner?
Picks?
No, draft picks.
You wouldn't take away a draft pick?
No. For being on the field?
Yeah.
No.
For interfering with a play?
No. I don't think he interfered with the play, first of all. But being on the field.
Six-figure fine?
$10,000.
Tony, it's going to be a lot more than that.
It's
going to be a lot more than that.
I just see it as much ado over nothing, really.
Oh, man, I don't know.
Was that worse than last night and saying it's a first down
well,
and then
that was
saying
embarrassing.
It's fourth down?
Well, those officials should be suspended for what happened towards the end of the Redskins game.
So that if I'm the commissioner, I'm more concerned about that than Mike Tomlin.
But they're not trying to screw up. Tomlin was trying to interfere with a kick return, Tony. That's the difference.
No, I don't
Look
think
at you,
so.
Steelers. Look at you, Steelers. You're sticking together here. What do you expect tonight, Saints-Seahawks?
Really interesting game. I would have said 2 weeks ago, Seahawks all the way. New Orleans doesn't play that well on the road. Seattle is such a tough place to play. But now you've got this really big matchup problem for Seattle to me. All things being equal, everybody playing, Brandon Browner covers Jimmy Graham. I think you got a good matchup there. You got Sherman and Thurman. But now you don't have those two guys. How are you going to match up with all those receivers? I think that gives New Orleans a great shot tonight.
Eagles seem to be a dangerous team here because what was it, 6 weeks ago, where people saying, Chip Kelly not working, he's going to go back to college. And I went, you guys are idiots. He's not going back there. But what he's done with this team, it's not the offense we thought it would be, but he's made it work with Nick Foles. Why?
Well, Chip Kelly is a brilliant offensive coach, number one. And his whole theory, and people, you can look at it and say, well, it's read options, it's this, it's that. His whole theory is I'm trying to get 20-yard plays, and I'm trying not to turn the ball over. And if I do that, if I get enough big plays and don't turn it over, we're going to score points. And that's what they've done. And Nick Foles has bought into that. He's not turning it over. He's letting the offense create. And LaShawn McCoy and Jackson and Riley Cooper, these guys are making those big plays. Defensively, they were terrible at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And that group has come on. Now they're playing with the lead. They're not defending short fields. Their pass rushers are becoming effective. They're a dangerous team. I believe we're going to get Philly and Dallas at that last game of the year on Sunday Night Football for the division championship.
I wanted to ask you about RG3 before I let you go. That we talked about this with Cam Newton. Similar arc here. Came in, took the NFL by storm, and then all of a sudden started to fail, didn't put up the same numbers. You heard teammates talking about Cam Newton his second year. Was he a leader? He was about himself, the whole Superman thing. It seems like the RG3 is going through the same kind of down cycle here. Can he learn from Cam Newton? Is there a parallel in your opinion?
I think there is, and everybody goes through it. When you come into the NFL and play as well as those guys did as first-year players, everybody studies you now, and they try to take that element of your game away. You have to really grow into the position. Quarterbacks have to be brash. Peyton Manning upsets some people, but when you're winning and then the players see, hey, this guy can take us to a championship level.
But
then
can
it
Peyton
becomes
be a jerk to teammates in practice, or?
Hey, Peyton Manning told Marcus Pollard. Marcus said he's a tight end for us. He said, well, Coach so-and-so said I'm supposed to run the route this way, and I thought it was this. Peyton said, hey, if I tell you it's Easter, you better start looking for eggs. Now, some guys can take that the wrong way, and when you're not winning, you say something like that, and hey, who does this guy think he is? But now when he tells you that and you're Eric Decker and you catch 4 touchdown passes, I'm looking for eggs.
But can RG3 act that way in year 2 with a team? Are they going to listen to him, respect him?
They will if you're winning and if you're playing well. And that's the thing. He's just going to have to adjust his game now. And, again, I think the whole thing, it gets kind of exacerbated in Washington with the whole setup there and the way it's been and the owner and everything and the press. RG3 is going to be okay, just like Cam Newton. Now, 3 or 4 years, he matures. He's playing great football. Maybe he's matured a little bit, but they're winning more. He's playing better. So now it all looks pretty good, whereas when you're not winning, everything seems to be a negative.
You think Mike Shanahan survives?
That hasn't been the history in Washington. Coaches haven't lasted a long time there. I think it would be best for them in the long run to stay with this offense and keep building and keep some continuity. I'm not sure it's going to happen.
Would you want to work for him?
For Mike?
Yeah, no, Daniel Snyder.
No. When you're interviewing coaches for the job and you haven't told me I've lost the job yet, no, I would not want to work there.
If I said you could work for Daniel Snyder or Jerry Jones, or not work at all?
Let's just say I'm retired from the NFL.
So you would rather not work than to work under those two guys?
No, I think I could. I think I could work for anybody. But
you know what you're getting into.
Yeah, there are certain systems. I mean, when you work for Dan Rooney, you work for Lamar Hunt, you work for Jim Irsay. Even the Glazers were great to me and let me pass or fail based on my ability. I think that's what you're looking for as a head coach. I don't know that you get that in Washington or Dallas.
Well, Jerry's going to be really involved. And Snyder wants to be buddies, it appears, with the star players.
Well, the problem I have with both those organizations, you've got to build a team. That's how you win championships. And you can't just say, we're going to bring in the best player, we're going to bring in guys, doesn't matter what kind of teammates they are, what type of history they have. If we get star players, we're going to be good. And I think both of those owners think that's the case. The more star players you have, the better you're going to be, and that's not how you build championships.
You would not be a good poker player, you know that?
I know. I don't play poker.
That's why I love you. Sometimes I feel bad when I know I'm going to ask a question, and I go, oh, he's too honest. That was a great answer, though. Your non-answer was a great answer. But you are retired, so it doesn't matter.
I'm retired, so it doesn't matter.
Great to see you. Safe travels. I'll see you next weekend.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you,
Tony
sir.
Dungy, Football Night in America.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.